it's your friend Riley from Los Angeles. I wanted to share a little bit more of my cultural observations, which as always are very much skewed by my personal perspective, and also a lot of stories of being the dumb American. Nobody wants us in their country. Just a note for you before you travel abroad. No one wants you there. Last time I left us at the European Games, which were a ton of fun, but I was exhausted by the end of this day. It was ridiculous. We had brunch, we went and saw the games, I drank more than my body weight. It was a crazy day, and I wanted to go back to the little single bed with fairy sheets on it that I had stolen from the child in the house and just take a damn nap. But my boyfriend's dad had other plans. Hey. It turns out that because he used to work for the official Belarus band, the band, like the government's marching band. He used to be the conductor, and he knew the current conductor and a lot of the guys in it, so they got him tickets to see the rehearsal for this big parade. And this is like the Victory Day parade. It's their commemoration of liberation during World War II in Belarus. So it's a huge day. It's hugely important. World War II is a huge cornerstone of Belarus culture. And if you remember, I told you last time that it is situated directly between Poland and Russia. Then that will explain to you why World War II is kind of a big deal. It's a big deal for everybody. Really big deal in Belarus. All of their monuments and statues are about World War II. We went on a tour. We went on this bus tour while we were there, and I'd already made this observation to my boyfriend. I was like, literally all of your monuments are about people dying in World War II. I haven't seen anything that is not about that. And my boyfriend was like, you're a racist and assuming things. And I was like, okay, let's go on this tour and see if I'm wrong. It was a beautiful tour on this this cute vintage red bus, and we got on it, and I almost couldn't stop laughing because everything we stopped at, and I kept looking at my boyfriend like the first thing we stopped at, here's a memorial to this brigade in World War II. Then we drive a little bit further around the city, and it's like, and here is a building with a plaque on it to commemorate World War II. We drive a little bit more. It's like, here's an open field where they are constructing a memorial to, and I just kept looking at my boyfriend like, am I wrong? I'm not wrong. And he's like, not all the memorials are about that. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I'll show you one later today. So he tells me, he's like, I'm going to show you this other memorial. It's nothing to do with World War II. It's about something that happened in the 90s. And I'm like, ooh, that sounds like it's going to be depressing. Not just because of the 90s, but like what happened that they needed to put that up, that they need a memorial. There were no chipper memorials. There were no victory. There was no like, we won this battle, so we put this up. It was not like, woohoo. It was all sad stuff. So I was not excited. But he showed me, and it was this like plaque outside of the subway system. And, the plaque was to, apparently just one day, a bunch of people were coming home from a concert, and some hail started, and people stampeded for the subway tunnels, and 50 people died. And I was like, why are all your statues and plaques sad? And he's like, history is sad. And I'm like, all right. There it is. There's another thing I'm going to add to my list of things I know about Russians and already assumed. Their history is sad and snowy. To add to this, I was complaining when me and my boyfriend met in college, and I was complaining to him once about my many woes and my many cares and the many things that were aggrieving me. And I was talking about all these woes and cares. And my boyfriend just stares at me for a little bit. And then he says, you know, during the siege at Stalingrad, my grandmother and her mother escaped during a snowstorm. They left the city during a snowstorm. And then her mother died, and she had to bury her own mother in the snow while escaping a battle zone. And I said, don't judge me and my problems by your Russian standards. Nothing I deal with will ever reach that height of sadness and snowy sadness. I was like, but I am still upset about this test that's annoying me and this group project that's not going well. And I will maintain that I am allowed to be upset about that, even though it's not during a war and we're not in a snowstorm. So this was like all the statues. There was another one outside the opera house, and I looked at it and I'm like, oh, well, this one's of a little kid. That must, oh no. I'm like, this one is about, I know that this says he's 13. And my boyfriend says, yeah, it's about a 13-year-old boy who martyred himself by throwing himself on a hand grenade to save a bunch of people. And I was like, I. And at the time I was judgmental about this. Because I was like, well, it's so strange culturally because in the US, we put up statues of, heroes and soldiers who, won like a battle, and then recently with everyone talking about statues, I'm like, oh, I should have shut my damn mouth. I should have kept my damn mouth shut. You live and you learn. You learn that I never want to, anywhere else's statues. As long as they're not to literal Nazis, I'm going to be like, that's a damn nice statue, good for you. I have no superiority complex about this anymore. Good, nice statue. Better than the ones we have here. Nice statue. Hopefully that's changing. And, we'll take down the statues of the fucking racists. So that was World War II. That was all to just tell you that this was a really, really big deal in Belarus. I'm not downplaying it. It should be a big deal. And I think that it would actually be really cool in the US if we learned about World War II from the perspective of some of these other places, instead of pretty much the way that we're taught it, which is, and then we went in and saved the day from the bad Nazis. Like, that's not the whole story or even most of the story. So I think it would be really good for us as Americans to learn a little bit more accurately of how it affected the rest of the world and how it still has a huge effect today on global socio-political things. I know that wasn't the most eloquent sentence I ever said, but I think it gets my point across. Like, it was just very eye-opening to realize it just very different from how we're taught it, and I'm sure that's true with everything. I think especially, like, I just keep seeing all these articles and stuff online of, like, you were taught this wrong in school, and I'm like, just literally everything I've always been told is a lie, and I'm glad that I finally know that. So I wanted to sleep. It'd been a long day. Again, his dad had other plans. So we went to the parade rehearsal, and I was like, we already have tickets to the parade. I'm not going to want to see this twice. Why are we going to the parade rehearsal? And my boyfriend's like, well, we're probably not going to have these are going to be really good seats. Like, we're going to sit where, like, the president and other higher ups, like, sit during the parade, but we'll just be there for the rehearsal. And I'm like, but this thing is hours long. I don't want to sit there twice through the whole thing. And he's like, well, my dad asked us to go, and I was like, fine, let's go, this will be fun, I'm having a good time. So we went, And they were great seats. We sat down. I was like, this is awesome. These are fantastic seats. Until his dad came up to us and said, hey, we have to move because I need 3 more seats. Because he also invited the mother of his children and his 2 other kids. And we all were going to try to sit together. So we began a lengthy trek all over the stands to nearly identical seats. And then we finally found like a pair of seats for me and my boyfriend that was like close to where his dad was with the rest of the family. And at this point, it was pretty late. And I'm like, why did they bring the baby? It's like a 2-year-old. And it's like 9, 10 p.m. at this point. I'm like, that baby's in for a long night. But what do I know? I don't have a baby. I try not to judge parents because like having kids is hard. It's a hard task, you know. And if I haven't walked a mile in someone's shoes, I mean, I was like a camp counselor, but being a camp counselor was hard enough, and I didn't even have to like keep them. And those were kids who were old enough to like tie their own shoes and stuff for the most part. So we sat down finally, and the parade gets going, and it was interesting because it was a military parade. Um, and I was expecting kind of like I was expecting what parades are in the U.S., I guess, which is silly. Um, but in the U.S., you might have like a military band or something come by, but you don't just like out and out have like platoons of soldiers marching necessarily. And if there are, then they're like kind of cut in. They're separated by like pretty people waving to you in cars covered in flowers. Like that was what I was expecting when I heard the word parade. This was more like a demonstration of military might. There were tanks. There were huge numbers of people marching. There were 13-year-old, 14-year-old kids decked out in their like junior soldier garb marching. A lot of like women's platoons, which was cool. They had like some of the like and they had the high up ladies in the military and in the government like saluting everybody. So that was cool. I was like, oh, okay, equality. But it was definitely a display of a scary amount of firepower and like military might. And so I said to my boyfriend, I'm like, what is the stated purpose of the parade? He's like, well, it's to celebrate the Victory Day for World War II, and it's also to kind of for Belarus to assure its citizens that what happened then is not going to happen again. And I was like, okay, all right, I can see that. It's comforting then for people watching this parade, and they feel proud, watching the power of their government. And one of the other things that was interesting about it is that they invited other countries to also send kind of a delegation, and they would send like, oh, here's some people marching from China, and here's some people marching from this other country, and they would send some like units of their army as well, just as like a show of goodwill, and like we're all in this together, and like it's that that was kind of cool to see the other delegations. But then kind of the last to go was Russia. And if the point of this parade was for Belarus to feel better about its own military power and ability, Russia was being a dick about it.